In today's video, I'm going to reveal why losses and losing streaks are the biggest key to your trading success. And also I'm going to give you a small mindset shift and a couple of exercises to really start steering your trading career into a whole new direction towards profitability. Trust me, you really don't want to miss this out. Alright fanatics, welcome to the Trading Fanatic channel. Iliya here. If you're new to the channel, it's all about helping you become the best trader you can be by equipping you with the right mindset and technicals and pretty much having a no BS approach to trading. Here we are talking about the real trading, alright? Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty, I just want to ask you two questions. How do you feel when you take a loss? Do you feel really bad, depressed, like feeling down, feeling like you shouldn't really be taking that loss and you kind of get into a pit, right? And when you take a win, do you feel really good? Do you feel really happy? Are you like really looking to share it to your best friend, share it with the world, show your winning trades and like feel really amped up? Reality is that a lot of traders are going to answer yes, losing is bad, makes me feel bad. Don't really like losing, it's a bad thing. And then winning is good, this is what we should be doing. Trading is all about winning. I'm feeling really good when I'm winning, right? And if you think this way, you might have a little bit of a problem because you're having a flawed mindset and flawed belief that can keep you in a losing cycle for a very long time. With that being said, I right now want to challenge you to just stick with me because I'm going to change your mindset towards wins and losses. Let's get into it. Now, our world exists within duality, right? There is always a mirror and pretty much every single thing consists of positives and negatives, right? And those are two charges that are linked together and cannot be separated, all right? So I'm not gonna go very deep on quantum physics, maybe that's a topic you wanna study, but for example, good and bad, hot and cold, ugly and beautiful, drawbacks and benefits, right? Support and challenge. Those are the same thing in nature, but just in different degrees. And we use contrast in order to pretty much know what one thing is. For example, you know what is hot by contrasting it to what is cold. You know what is beautiful by contrasting it to what is ugly, right? You know what a loss is because you know what a win is, right? So I hope you get the point. Now you might be asking, Iliya, what the hell does this have to do with my trading? It has to do a lot with your trading and with you also as a person. So let me walk you through it. So as human beings, we tend to put label onto everything, being good or bad. If it supports our values and if of course something happened that we wanted to see happening, we of course say, all right, that's great, that's good. And if something that we didn't want to happen, if something challenges us, if something we perceive is not good, we of course label it as bad. However, as I said, the world is in perfect equilibrium. However, it is our perception that throws a judgment on the world and then we pretty much become polarized. So that then becomes our reality and not the actuality. And as traders also, we're programmed to see losses as being something bad, something that we should avoid, always finding a way to avoid losses, to decrease losses. And of course, we know that wins, because again, we're told trading is all about winning, right? You actually, at the end of the day, you become profitable by winning. So winning should be good. That is not the very correct mindset to have. Because what ends up happening is that you put winning very high on a pedestal, right? Winning is something very important. And then you put losing down in the pit. So you can see you have that very big wide gap between losing and winning. So you perceive winning to be very good. You perceive losing to be very, very, very bad, right? So pretty much you're very polarized between the two extremes. And that's bad. And of course, we are not the one to blame. We are built this way from our past, from our childhood as well. For example, myself, I was raised by very strict parents. I was always punished for making any mistakes. I was always punished if I didn't perform as I was expected to perform. I still remember I was being told to get home at 8 p.m. and I was getting home at 8:10, for example, p.m. And I was punished by not having access to my computer for 10 days, right? If I didn't get good grades, like if I didn't get a 10, but I got 9.5, I was punished, right? And that introduced this kind of perfectionistic thinking that you should never be making mistakes, you should always be right. And guess what? Then I got into trading. Oh my God. Losing money, making mistakes, being wrong, having losing streaks, not being able to figure it out. This was just not for me. I spent years trying to figure out a way to stop losing money, trying to find a way to be always right. As a result, I started fearing mistakes and losses so much that I was getting frozen. I didn't take any trades. I cut down my risk all the way down to 0.10% just to avoid that pain of loss, because I just couldn't stand taking a loss. And I was at the same time obsessed with winning, because you know, I put losses all the way down in the pit and winning was all the way up here. So when I took a loss, I was on top of the world. I was finally feeling like I was making progress. I was finally feeling like I was getting there. And then the market just slapped me with a little loss and put me back where I was. So are you in the same boat, right? Let me walk you through right now what is the actual problem. Alright, so here we are right here, and what I have for you is a straight line that represents equilibrium. This is pretty much the world, because everything in the world is balanced and it is how it should be. However, we come to the world right here and let's just say we have a perception of something. It doesn't really matter what it is, but let's take, for example, losses, because the topic of this video is why losses are actually the key to your trading success. Now, I asked you at first, how do you perceive losses? And pretty much a very big percentage of traders are going to perceive losses as something bad. Now, below this equilibrium line, we have the negative charges, and above it we have the positive charges. And of course, it's a degree, as I explained. Now, what's the degree at which you hate losses, right? So let's say we hate, in my situations, I hated losses a lot. I just couldn't stand taking them. So pretty much my perception was right here. I was perceiving losses to be extremely negative, so I was always trying to avoid them. And this is why 99% of traders cannot make it, is because their sole focus is on avoiding to lose. And you know, winning cannot exist without losing. This is the pair of opposites that are pretty much inseparable. But look what happens right now. The distance from your perception towards equilibrium, the equilibrium actually acts as a mirror. So this line here is projected onto the other side in the exact same length, all right? And that, however, is the opposite side. So if here is pretty much hate of loss, damn, my handwriting is crazy. Here is love for win, right? So in this case, if you're hating losing so much, you are loving winning as well a lot, right? And then this creates this very big gap, right? This very big gap. So you can see you are either very much to the upside or very much to the downside. So what the market and also what nature actually ends up doing, all right? If you're so much hating losses, it is going to try to, for example, bring you back to equilibrium, right? But then, of course, you might fall back down in this cycle. Or if you are really puffed up when you take a win, like if you really love wins and if you're really puffed up, the market is going to give you some losses in order to try to bring you back to equilibrium where you belong. If you're losing a lot, the market is usually going to give you some wins in order to make you a little bit puffed up, or maybe make you enter into this, in this instance right here. And then, of course, it's going to bring you all the way back. Because listen, this is very, very, very key. The extent to which you hate losses is going to be the extent to which you hate wins. And this is exactly what builds that boom and bust cycle, because if you're really loving wins, when you lose, you're gonna really hate losses. When you win, you're really gonna love your win, right? So then when you lose back again, you're really gonna hate it all the way back down. And do you see what this turns into? This turns into this oscillation. Right? Of course, here is equilibrium, but you're constantly oscillating up and down. You're taking some wins, blowing them, you hate yourself. Then you take some wins, you're loving it, then you go back all the way down and blow yourself. All right? So how is this actually, what's the solution to this? Is you have to shorten that gap and constantly try to get close to equilibrium. How does this happen? Is by pretty much decreasing the importance of winning, so stopping to love winning so much, and decreasing also the importance of losing, so stopping to hate losing so much. Because then what ends up happening is you find meaning, all right? And meaning, if you look at the word mean, right, you find the mean, right, between those two things. And the mean is within equilibrium, right? Because how nature works is that maximum growth, right, you achieve maximum growth on the border between loss and win, between challenge and support, between good and bad, between win and loss, right? However, how we are also programmed is that if we have a perception right here, at the time of that perception, usually we frame something to be good or bad. And then we're having a split, right, of good and bad, right? But you know, equilibrium is here. And usually it is your logical mind that thinks that in this case, losing is bad, right? Sorry for my handwriting, it's crazy. Your logical mind, right, thinks that losing is bad, but your unconscious mind, that is your subconscious, knows at the same time that is not that bad, right? So you have that split. So what you have to end up doing is bring all of these together to achieve that equilibrium. And right now I'm gonna show you exactly how to do this with a very simple exercise. What is actually wisdom? Wisdom is when you actually see both sides very fast and you're pretty much not judging and you have a neutral stance towards events and perceptions. This is when you are wise because you're aware of both sides. So the exercise that I'm going to share with you, I learned from a trading psychology mentor and a very good friend of mine, Mr. Pat Bailuni. I'm going to leave a link down to his YouTube channel. You can check out his content. It is incredible. He also utilizes some human behavior principles taught by Dr. John DeMartini, which is also another person that you can study. It's incredible. So I'm not going to go very deep in depth because there's so much that goes into it, but I'm just going to tell you a very simplified approach on how to solve that problem. Step number 1. You have to identify your problem and your perception, the time of your perception, and pretty much give some context. So identify it and write down how you feel about it. So let's actually do this a little bit more practical and pick an example. Let's say that I blew my funded challenge on, the 10th of July and I'm feeling really bad about it. I'm beating up myself and I'm ashamed of myself for this happening. Okay? So this is our perception right now. We're ashamed of ourselves, we beat up ourselves, and we're not happy for blowing that funded account. That's step number 1. Get clear what it is, what is your charge. In this case, it's negative charge. You are ashamed, you're feeling bad about it, all right? When did it happen? How did it happen? And give some context. Actually transfer yourself into that exact moment when you blew your account, because that is the moment at which you perceive that thing, and that is the moment at which you pretty much separate the good and the bads. All right? Step number 2, and this is where the magic starts happening, is this is where you want to pretty much bring your love for something down or bring your hate for something back up to equilibrium, is you start asking opposing questions. So if you perceive something to be positive, you ask, why is it negative? If you perceive something to be negative, you ask, why is it positive? So in our case, right, we blew our funded account. So what I would ask myself is, okay, what are the benefits? What are the services? What are the positives of me blowing this funded account? What did I learn? What did I gain? What did this actually made me do? What did it teach me? Who did it improve my relationship with? All right? Because this experience, you don't know how much good it's actually doing for you until you sit down and you try to recognize it. All right? So in our case, we blew our account. Okay, what are the benefits? You're gonna be like, Iliya, what the hell? I lost my funded account. I lost money. How can this be good? And this mindset is a result of your hate for that loss and not being aware of what actually this loss has done for you. So think of 20 answers how blowing this account actually helped you. What are the positives, right? To give you a few examples, blowing this account helped me really figure out where my strengths and weaknesses are. Blowing this account really helped me get very clear on my greatest setups and knowing exactly what to trade next time. Blowing this account showed me that I'm not really good at risk management, so I really have to work on my risk management a little bit more. Blowing this account made me emotional, and my girlfriend supported me at that time, so I really improved my relationship with her. Blowing this account made me really step back a little bit and take a little bit of a break because I actually felt I was really burned out. So this actually made me rest and become a little bit more objective. Blowing this account taught me a lot about my trading strategy. Blowing this account made me invest in, let's say, in education or trading coaching that is right now playing out beautifully. Blowing this account made me really consider my job and not leaving my job because very likely I'm not ready yet. So blowing this account is doing me a service by not really looking to do something without being ready for it. Blowing this account really showed me where I am at my trading stage, and I objectively see that I'm not that good yet. Blowing this account, okay, so here we have probably 10 answers. I want you to write 10 more of that based on your personal experience, because right now I'm thinking it up, so I don't really have the charges, so I have to think of all those things. But I hope you get the point. Now, step number 3 is you want to identify the opposite of what actually happened, and which is pretty much what you wish happened. So in this case, we had something negative happening, blowing that account. So what we wish that would have happened is that we actually passed the account. So in this case, once again, you think that passing the account is really good. So what you have to do is you have to bring it all the way back down to equilibrium. So what you do is you ask the opposing questions. So for example, right, what are the negatives? What are the drawbacks? What are the disservices that passing this account would have done to me? So what are the negatives of actually passing that account? And you're gonna be like, why the hell would it be negative? I got passed, I proved my consistency, I am gonna make some money. This is where you're going wrong, because maybe some of you right now watching, you have passed a funding account and only on the next trade or on the next day or the next week to blow it out. Maybe some of you have passed the 2 phases and then you have got on live and you just blew it. And why did that happen is because you were so positive about that thing and the market had to bring you all the way back down. All right. So let's of course think of it. What are the negatives of passing the challenge? And usually the answers go like, I wouldn't have, right? So I wouldn't have really learned about myself if I passed this challenge, and eventually I would have ended up blowing it. I wouldn't have learned about what are my best setups, and I wouldn't have learned that potentially I'm trading just with luck right now. I wouldn't have really developed my relationship with this trader or maybe with my girlfriend if I didn't fail that account, right? If I passed this funded challenge, I wouldn't have made the improvements that right now I'm making after blowing it. If I passed this account, I wouldn't have taken my health a little bit seriously and actually started working out, because I felt that when I failed the challenge, I really had to change as a person as well. If I passed this funded account, I wouldn't have invested in a trading psychology mentor to pretty much work on my mindset. If I passed this account, I wouldn't have been self-aware of the negative patterns that are going in my head, right? If I passed this account, I wouldn't have been going through that losing curve in order to teach me how to lose, and eventually I would have ended up blowing, right? So you can see what we're doing right now. We are dropping the importance of passing and we're getting back to equilibrium our perception of losing, which we thought it was quite bad, all right? So that is pretty much step 2. Figure out the opposite of what actually happened and find out the opposites of that very thing, right? Now, of course, if that thing is, the first thing is positive, let's say that you actually want to balance out you passing the account and you feel like it's really good, you have to find out the negative, why it's very bad. And then on step 3, you want to say, okay, if I failed this account, what would have been the positives of it? All right, so you pretty much level up those both 2 things. And step number 4, keep listing those things until you feel perfectly balanced and until in your heart you actually feel grateful for that experience. There comes a time at which you bring both charges to the surface, you bring them all back to equilibrium, right? And at that time, you are just grateful. You don't think that winning is good, you don't think that losing is bad. They are the same. They are the same thing, just different degrees, and right now you're leveled up. And I still remember when I learned about this exercise from Pat, we actually did it one-to-one. I then went on to balance out all of my past events that I was keeping repeating in my mind. For example, my childhood and how my parents raised me, and very specific moments of my childhood which I perceived to be extremely negative. I always perceived that my parents introduced a lot of fear into me. I was actually blaming them, but then I just sat down and I asked myself, okay, what are the positives of me being raised in this way? What kind of benefits did it provide me? What did I learn? What did I gain? Right? And then I started seeing that this kind of way of raising me, it made me very organized, it made me very disciplined, it made me this, it made me that, and it made me the person that I am today, for which I'm very grateful for. And at that time, actually, I even was bursting in tears because I really appreciated my parents for what they really are. And I got leveled up and I pretty much went grateful. I immediately forgave them for what I thought they have done, right? And I got leveled up, okay? And you can do this with any single thing that you have in your life, but in this video we're of course talking about losses. So if you perceive right now losses to be very bad, ask yourself, what are the positives of taking losses, right? What are the benefits that I gain? What are the services that it's actually doing for me, all right? And then you pretty much level up and you come to a point at which you become wise, as I told you. So for every single thing that happens in your life, you perceive both sides immediately, and that is pretty much when you're wise, because you know that what happened right now is not good, it's not bad, it just is. You extract the positives, you extract the negatives as well, and you are leveled up. Alright fanatics, I really hope this was insightful. Let me know what you think of this, and I really hope this new paradigm of actually viewing the world is really going to help you start transcending and getting that higher awareness of the world and of course of your training. Let me know. I really encourage you to do the exercise. I really encourage you to watch some of Pat Bailooni's content as well, to study a little bit more in depth, and please try this exercise right now, right? Take your very recent event, positive or negative, and then find out the opposite and let me know how it goes. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this, type down in the comments, and I'm gonna catch up with you on the next one.